we'll go back to item 9, which is the disposal.
Happy to move it, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions of Letitia? Any questions of Letitia? You're right. Very simple.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Letitia, can I thank you very, very much for the number of times you've come to this committee, and can I welcome your new person whom you may introduce to the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, just wanting to introduce Anthony Lewis. I am not sure if everyone here is aware, but I have recently stepped into the team leader role that was filled by Marion Webb, who's now filled into a senior management role.
Congratulations.
And Anthony Lewis has come on board from local board services and recently a secondment in Auckland Transport to fill our senior advisor role. So I will...
Good. So thank you very much. You've got very big shoes to fit. Letitia, you've been gracious. It's been difficult at times. You've dealt with some very, very thorny issues extremely well, and you've managed to keep a smile on your face all that time. I know that we've actually have sort of juggled a few so that we've got the best results in the end. So personally, I want to thank you very much, and good luck in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair and councillors. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you. Now, councillors, as I said, I wanted your indulgence today, so I would like to now move that we move item 12 as President, because Claire Richardson has got to catch a plane this afternoon and has to leave here at a certain time. So I'll move that. Seconded. Thank you. Councillor Holst, all those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Claire, welcome.
Good morning, councillors. Lovely to see you all. This will be also my last finance and performance of this term, because at the end of October our new Head of Health, Safety, Wellbeing will be joining the organisation, so I will be handing over this portfolio to Oliver Sanandris, who arrives at the end of October. So who knows what I'll be talking to you next, but it won't be health, safety and wellbeing. I think, Madam Chair, we can take the reports as read. There are a couple of things I just want to highlight, particularly in your due diligence role. The ACC audit begins next month. As you know, it's biannually. It happens every 2 years. It's a significant event for us as an organisation because it assesses our health and safety management practice. It determines our accreditation. Currently we have secondary accreditation. Our intention is to at least maintain that. It also has financial implications because the discount that we receive is determined by our accreditation. The other thing I want to note is that we have a specific KPI this financial year for wellbeing. So as you will have seen in one of the attachments, our annual wellbeing assessment was 76%, and our goal is to increase that to 78% as an organisation in FY17, and there's been quite a bit of work in the last 2 or 3 months to invest in support around wellbeing for staff, and I've also been having conversations with Democracy Services to ensure that we provide good wellbeing services for elected members and as well. And we're looking to see what we can include in the induction post-election along with the officer training. And I think the other thing to note following the last Audit and Risk Committee is that we will continue to measure driving incidents and look to manage that risk. There is a new program coming in, subject to a couple of final decisions, that Fleet will introduce to the organisation later this year, which will really help us manage our driving, our vehicle use, but more importantly, for those of you who are there for the discussion at Audit and Risk, fatigue is a continuing issue for our staff, and some of our most serious driving incidents have been as a result of fatigue. So we're very much focused on that, and we've started some work around that in a pilot with animal management. So I'll leave it there. I'm happy to take any questions, and if there's anything specific that requires a legal response, Catherine can support me with that.
Thank you. Well, I'll move the report. Have I got a seconder? Thank you, Bill. Councillor Cashmore. Right, questions. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Claire. My question relates to the Wellbeing 360 assessment. 3,054 employees completed the assessments, so that means I really need Councillor Brewer here to tell me the staff numbers, but I'm assuming that's like 1 in 3? Is that right? 1 in 3 people completed the assessment? Yeah.
Around about, yes.
And that assessment, is that done by an external agency, and it is anonymous, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so people are quite at liberty to say what they feel. There's no way they can be identified.
Yes.
Is there any reason why you think it was 1 in 3, Claire, as opposed to being a bit
So
higher?
that's, through the Chair, that's one of the things we're looking at. So we are trying to increase participation. We're trying a new approach this month with health, safety, wellbeing inductions. We have a Be the Winning Team campaign running. We're encouraging staff across the organisation to undertake the new e-learning module, which has a specific wellbeing component. And what I'm trying really hard to do is to ensure that our approach to health, safety, wellbeing is both more positive but encourages people to feel more proactive and willing to participate. So the intention is not only to see an increased wellbeing score but increased participation.
So in just talking generally, in the instance where obviously an issue is identified, or there's a number of people saying the same thing about perhaps relationship as it impacts on their mental well-being, what happens at that point in terms of follow-up if things are identified in this assessment?
So this is annual, but we also have information that we receive based on other services used every couple of months. So we look at that very carefully to determine what it is that we need to be providing to people. So one of the things that was very clear in the early part of this calendar year was that mental health and wellbeing was an issue that staff felt they needed a lot more support in and a lot more confidence in. So our primary focus and investment this calendar year has been in mental health and wellbeing. So we've run sessions in partnership with the Mental Health Foundation across the entire region. We've offered that opportunity to all staff, and quite interestingly, at each session we've had between 60 and 90 staff attend, so it's very clear that that need has been met, and we will continue to provide those sessions along with the mindfulness sessions, which have also been very popular. So we use the information we receive to determine our program approach and investment, which is the thing that I think is probably one of the most successful outcomes thus far this year, is that we've taken a very different approach. So we're trying very hard to be more proactive rather than simply reactive, as in just waiting to see what happens. We're using the information we have to better serve our people.
Thank you. Councillor Hulse.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A kind of a sobering read, really, when you look at this. And I've got a couple of questions. My first question is around the intersect of this work and our relationship with our Chief Executive. And I guess the question in that is, in the next council, whoever is here and whoever chairs the CE's committee, are we planning on having a really key reporting line through on these issues? Because this to me seems indicative of organisational health at many levels. So is that, because it's reported through here, but the kind of discussions we really need to have at the Chief Executive's committee?
So through the Chair, the Chief Executive has specific KPIs around health, safety, wellbeing. I personally report to the Chief Executive and the Executive Leadership Team once a month, but I agree as officers you would need to think about how you in the new term want to engage directly ELT to elected member, because as officers you have the same responsibilities.
And I think that's been well understood, but the discussions and the debate we have around this table often bears absolutely no resemblance to our responsibilities as those health and welfare officers, and our requests for going faster, doing more with less, will drive these figures in the direction that we don't want to see them driven in. So I guess my question, Madam Chair, is through you to Claire. The reporting that needs to happen via the CE's committee needs to happen in such a way that we report more clearly when we ask for cuts and when we remove budget, that we may well impact on these outcomes. So, I think there's a disconnect between let's do better at this, but what will it cost us and what decisions do we need to make at a governance level? And I think we're entirely unconnected or disconnected. And a very good example, the top 5 speeders, Parole Building Control are in both. Why? Because we're short of building inspectors, and the poor buggers are speeding between site to site, only to be harangued when they get to sites 6, 7 and 8 for being late. So somewhere it says, hang on a minute, before we cane people for being speeders, let's actually have a look at what we need to do to resolve that. I was in the other weekend and I bumped into some staff in the lift. Now, I'm not going to say which department they're in, but these are people who are working over weekends to keep up. So I'm not surprised they're falling asleep at the wheel. And what are we doing to resolve that? So for the next council, I hope we have this reported in a way that Claire has set up, and well done, Claire. This has been a huge task for you. I think you've done an exemplary job in pulling this together, but we need to make this our top priority because everything we do impacts on these figures. And every time we moan about staff numbers, every time we tell people to do less, we need to also say, right, what's this doing from a health and safety perspective, what's this doing from a staff perspective, and what's this doing at a realistic on the ground level? And we need to join those dots. So I hope that it is reported, and I will be requesting, should I be around to be in any position to do so, that we report and discuss this directly with the Chief Executive on a regular basis. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, and you're quite right, because we have finance staff that during LTPs and annual plans are working 24/7. We don't seem to understand that either. Councillor Quacks.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm surprised by, on page 52, that there were, and I'm just wondering if this is to the year ending June, 25,000 events that were identified where an Auckland Council vehicle was being driven over 10% over the speed limit. Now, I don't think 10% over the speed limit is such a big deal. Everyone in this room probably does it on a fairly regular basis, but can you be a bit more specific around, I suppose we're talking about serial speeding here, people doing more than 10% over the speed limit. So can you be a bit more specific on that? And what is the council policy about somebody who might be a serial speeder, as an example?
Through the chair, so I'm sorry, Councillor Quacks, my page 52 doesn't have that data, so I'm not sure if you're looking at the August or the September report, but we have driving data in both. So to answer your question, however, what we have been able to receive from the fleet team totals per month, where based on the initial GPS data that we receive, a vehicle has been driven more than the speed limit, over the speed limit for more than 1 minute. So we have thousands of incidents where vehicles are driven more than the speed limit for more than 1 minute. What we then do is the fleet team work to verify that information and identify if and when vehicles have been driven more than 30 kilometres over the speed limit as the first assessment, and that is then discussed directly with the manager and that person, because clearly that is behaviour that is against the law. However, generally, as the Deputy Mayor signalled, what we're trying to understand is general behaviour, and what we are seeing is that for the most part, people are rushing to do their job. And so as an organisation, and this is something we've discussed at the executive table, what is it that we need to do to look at people's workload and commitments and expectations to address the risk of people speeding and or rushing to get to their next job, or potentially driving when they're too tired to. So the overall driver for using the driving information